Live. Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Hi, welcome back. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. I am excited to introduce this evening. We got Josh Richard coming in back in a bubble somewhere in the United States, getting ready to work on set of a TV production. Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. We have Loving tonight. I think he's still humble from last week. Charles Maddox coming in from somewhere in Tampa, Florida. And of course, we have the man of the land from down under, known as Evis Love Heath. Welcome to the show, guys. Another week has passed us by in the month of August 2020. And so let me ask you guys, last couple of weeks, we went a little serious. We focused on relationship with our dads. And last week, we rounded it out with our relationships with our mothers. And so tonight, we decided to kind of drop the seriousness and have some fun. And fun for us is really talking about happiness and joy. And so I'm excited to get this show going here. What I'd like to do tonight is open it up with Josh Richard. Tell us a little bit about what happiness and joy means to you, and how are you able to create that even in the most difficult moments in your life?
Gosh, well, one thing, my door just knocked. And so you threw right to me at the moment that I was going to be like, can I take you away for a second?
Well, you know what, Josh, you go get that door, because I know this is the only chance you're going to get at a meal tonight. Yeah. And we're going to take this question to Jeff Fasano. Jeff, tell us what happiness and joy means to you.
Wow, actually, it's a challenge at times. It's a challenge for me at times to let go of a lot of things and move into a place of joy. But usually what I do when I find myself dragging a little bit, a little sad, angry, having all my feelings, I bring it back to basics and try to keep it all simple again. Find out what is really simple in my life. I personally can go and get very complex and start to think a lot, overthink things, move into a place of what isn't in my life. So normally when I get to that place, to raise my resonance and vibration again, because for me, it's not so much about joy and happiness, it's about fulfillment and what fulfills me. So usually when I get into those places, I dial it back. I dial it back into simplicity, back to basics. What brings me the greatest amount of joy in my life, I start to focus on that. For me personally, it's picking up my camera, doing photo shoots. I always go back to a relationship that I had many years ago with a woman another very, very complex woman. And she said, Jeff, what really, makes you happy? And I said, on Saturday mornings when I get up and go get bagels and bring them back to you. And that's what I mean about bringing it back to things that are simple, very basic, that just brings you out of your head, brings you back down to earth, and brings you back into your heart space. Because that's where fulfillment or joy or happiness lies. It's in our heart space, and it's what we're feeling at the time. And it could just be just little things in life. So for me, I just dial it back, get simple, look at the little things, and bring it back to basics.
I don't know about you, Jeff, but I could tell you that I grew up in a suburb not far from Staten Island, New York, where you called home as a kid. And in my home, we used to hear, Mom used to say, we just want you kids to be happy. Anyone else have that same statement resonate from a parent growing up? Now, here's the thing behind that is that I even heard it in my adult years, Mom always wanting me to be happy. But here's the challenge of that. How many of us were really given a roadmap to happiness? How many of us were kind of guided there to basically explain really what is the meaning of happiness? Is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Is it something that's called fleeting? Does it come and go like sadness? And how do you hold on to it? Because when you're happy, it doesn't take a whole lot for the mood to change. We just got to get one text today, one phone call, one email, and the mood can shift pretty damn quick. So, from my perspective, by the time I was in my 50s, I still was chasing happiness in all the wrong places. I was chasing it through the home sizes. I was chasing it through the designer labels on the vehicles. I was just chasing it in the designer label on the clothing. Eating out, no matter what I reach for to try to sustain that feeling of happiness, I struggled with it.
I don't think you can sustain it.
What's that?
I don't think you can't really, because they're feelings. So as a matter of fact, I was out with a friend today. We were talking about this, and we were talking about our feelings and fulfillment and joy. And it's something that you can't sustain because it's a feeling, and all of our feelings come and go, and we'll feel sad, we'll feel angry, we'll feel joy, we'll feel happiness, we'll feel sad, we'll feel angry, we'll feel frustrated. They're feelings. It's why I mentioned fulfillment, because it's something that we can't sustain. And if anybody says they're always and constantly in this state of bliss and joy, my head kind of goes this way and say, really? What are the other feelings that you're suppressing and repressing inside of you to maintain this joy?
And I think, Jeff, you just touched on something huge, which is that, if we're counting on the outside world to bring us our happiness, if we're counting on things and people and the feedback that we're looking for, or the love or attention we need, or if we're counting on outside forces, then we're being blown around the ocean like a ship with no captain or no crew. It's just you might be happy a little while, and then you may not, and then someone, like Jay said, may text you, or something will happen in life to upset you. So happiness has to come from within. And that's the question, is how do we generate that? How do we do that? What are the tools that we can use? So when we're caught in the cycle of looking to the outside world for our happiness, then it's going to be fleeting, and it's going to fade and be there sometimes and not be there other times. And it has to come from within. And we can touch on later on some tips on how to do that. But I want to really impress upon people that it's an inside job.
Yep.
Loving. What do you make of all this? Because you're a guy that you show up. It appears that you show up, and you're always changing your name. I never know. Every week it's a mystery. I never know who's going to show up. Last week it was humble. This week it's loving. Well, you've been Sir Charles. But behind all that, the real question comes down to is, have you had success in your own life with happiness and joy? And if so, how have you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's. I think at times the idea of just a place that you want to be at is enough, man, to at times just give you peace, right? Sometimes I quote the movie Shawshank Redemption, and I always look at how Red wanted to get out and wanted to. Especially when he understood about going to Zihuatanejo to Mexico, and how Andy Dufresne was in there for 20 something years, and what he dreamt of was getting out of there and going to that space that would give him that peace he wanted. And I think I'm the same way. I think for a long time, and I posted the other day, I said a lot of people hustle to be seen, and I said I hustle to disappear, and I mean that. I think a lot of times people don't understand that, but it's like, on this second half of the journey per se, I'm ready to do something totally different. And in that, I foresee some things that allow me to smile, whether it's, being a great father and having my children, see some of the dreams that I have in store for them or for us, whether it's, having that amazing woman in my life that just allows me to have that peace, during this ride, whether it's, having, business just run successfully so that you don't have to be stressed out about it. Of course, there are always obstacles and issues that come into your way. But to be honest, mine is just like Jeff said. It's very simple. I've slimmed it all down so that it's not complicated. That joy just comes from being healthy, waking up with purpose, and having loved ones a few loved ones in your life.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Ev, what do you make of, from your perspective? You're on the other side of the pond, and as a coach, I'm sure you have the opportunity to work with some of your clients, as I do, on this topic. It's one of my, when I do my hike and heal experiences out in nature, it's always one of the top choices that people pick from for the topic. We all strive, we all want to live. Nobody wants to live in a state of anxiety, depression, or sadness. But yet it's a challenge for many. So I'd like to invite you, Ev, to help break it down for us. You've come live a couple of times in the last 2 days, kind of mentally preparing for tonight's show. But from your perspective in your own life, what does happiness mean to you? And how have you been able to sustain it more so than not, if in fact?
Beautiful, beautiful. All my brothers and sisters out there in the collective, as always, from the bottom of our hearts, thanks for joining in. Make sure you share this stuff out there. There's a few of you out there lit tonight, writing some beautiful comments. And, this doesn't work on the show without you guys, but we really appreciate you and give you gratitude for sharing it out into the collective and get some of these important messages, such as joy and happiness, into the collective in such a dark time. Now, what does joy, happiness mean to me? I said this on a video this morning, and why I do these videos is to really prep you, to really give you some information to start digesting within your own world. And, from my personal experience in being able to help a lot of people through their health, fitness, and wellness journeys, you could ask 100 different people in a room what is their definition of joy. And you know what? You'd probably get 100 different responses. And what happens is, what I see, and me personally also, I used to always connect my definition of joy with that conduit or something connection outside of myself. Now, what I started to see is that, it was a fleeting emotion if it was external. But if it was internal, then it was everlasting. Let me just repeat that again. If it was a fleeting emotion, it was external to what I was connecting my happiness or joy with. But when I internalized it and started to embody this beautiful emotion we call joy in everything in life, not just the good, but also the bad, then I really made sure, and I started to understand, and most importantly, understand that this emotion is a process internally that we can all embody in the moment. See, when we externalize this emotion, it's based on the past, it's based on the future. We're never here. We're never now. So my joy and happiness now is staying lit with my brothers right here on the show right now. It's feeling the energy on the other side of the pond from all my brothers and sisters on the other side. It's in the moment. It's in the now. So that's for me, Jay. That's what I've learned over these years, man.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. But here's where I want to take us now is, so we understand, I think we all agree that it's an inside job. We all 5 of us have acknowledged that. Yeah, we could maybe try to cheat our way there, like a kid in school, pull out the cheat sheet and think that we can get there quicker. Maybe if we, pick up that new car, pick up the external things that I touched on. But long term, it doesn't really, it's not going to hold its power. It's not going to hold the light for us. Eventually, even that car that may have brought us joy for the first month or two is going to start to get, we're going to start to pick up an attitude with the car in itself most of the time. That's been my experience. Where I'd like us to go now in this segment is really kind of touch on what are some of the tools that we have picked up in our own lives? What are some of the things that we can do that we can share with our viewers and audience as far as how can we create a bubble for ourselves where we can experience more joy, more happiness, even with all of the external pulls and forces and energy trying to take us out. Now I'm gonna open this segment up by sharing one of the greatest moments for me was the day that I proposed to Mary. It was the only thing I had planned was I had picked up a ring, and I knew it was going to be on this particular day. It was October 31st of 2018, but I didn't know exactly where it was going to be in nature. But in that moment, when it presented itself to me and I proposed, and she said yes, it was one of the most joyous moments in my life. And we continued after the proposal and after her shockingly accepting. We climbed using a rope out of a cave. It was a high cave up in a limestone mountain. And then we hiked into this canyon that was very secluded. There was nobody there but us and nature. And it was an absolutely beautiful moment, one that I'll cherish forever. Pure joy and happiness. Now, we get back to the car and we both need to use a restroom. So we decide to drive to this other location that we could use an indoor restroom. And on the way there, my phone rings. And I look at the caller ID, and at the time it was my supervisor. And it happened to be a Friday. Now, it's very rare that he called me. Most of our communication was done through email. But something told me, I could feel the energy in that call coming through, that it was a call I didn't want to take. I didn't take the call. We get to the parking lot. She's now calling friends and family, all excited. I tell her I'm jumping out to use the restroom real quick. I go out, and as I'm in the restroom, I pick up a voicemail. I had just been let go. First time in my career. Okay? First time. I was fired. And I went from up here like that in an instant. And I went right to, oh my God, I went right to, how am I going to break this news to Mary? I don't want to ruin this moment for her, even though I just got taken out. How am I going to manage this? And, it's less about what happened there shortly thereafter, but what's most important is how quickly, like that, it can be pulled. And what that experience taught me is that we know that we have reached a level of, let's call it inner calm, peace, serenity, joy, even when the worst possible things may unfold outside of ourselves. And it doesn't mean that it has to take us down. It doesn't have to take us out. I was able to rebound pretty quickly because I had done enough practice to not allow external people, places, and things take me out anymore, not in this lifetime. And so that for me was a powerful moment of understanding how far I had come. But I would like to hear from you guys, perhaps starting with Josh. Let's just drop some bombs. What are some of the things that we can do to help elevate ourselves to more of a consistent state of inner peace, calm, joy, and happiness.
Yeah, for me, it was this elusive thing. I felt like I don't know, the way I saw it was like maybe like this concrete, like in an alley, there's a low spot in the concrete in the middle where the water runs. And I felt like I was a marble, and I kept like drifting in and out of the sweet spot, like the center being like the sweet spot. And I'd roll up one side, and then down the middle, I'd feel happy. And then I was out of it again, and then happy. And I was like, how do I get down to where now I'm just like in that sweet spot the whole time, in that zone? And for years it was elusive, and I'd have it, I'd get it, and then I felt like I needed to cling to it. And as soon as we get into the clinging energy or anything like that, that's a negative, and that'll take it away. So the two like practices that when I do them, I stay in that sweet spot, and I stay as my best self and in control of my thoughts and emotions. Our morning gratitude list. I have a little bit of a more extended one. We could talk about it another time. A couple other things I do. I do like something that I'm proud of from the day before. I call it an attaboy. But the biggest practice is the gratitude list. 10 things every morning. And that keeps me my happiest. And meditating every morning keeps my mind calm, where I'm in control. Like Jay, I can catch that moment and say, you know what? I'm not going to let this take me out. I'm going to stay in control. I'm going to put those emotions aside for now and stay in joy. And so for me, two top, and this is what I coach and what I teach people too, are morning gratitude list and daily meditation.
Love that, brother.
And that's the two for me. What about you, Charles? Do you have like an intention? Like, do you intentionally know what keeps you there? Oh no, you're muted.
You're muted, brother.
Like I said,
you guys, that, man.
yeah. Like I said, you guys have seen me going through some things over the last couple of weeks, and I think with that, I've kind of stripped back and kind of had to look at certain things. So even like certain people, like right now, I remember somebody years ago said I was a collector of people. And this is when I was more like making music and stuff like that. I always had a bunch of people around me. So now it's really, I'm almost stripping down all of my so-called friends, right? And not that I have a lot. I'm stripping that down and really saying, you know what, man, I'm going to start with a core one or two, but also look at the next stage of where I'm going to be and those new friends that I bring on, who are more in line with where I'm at now and where I want to be. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. And once again, I think it's also, that thing that allows me to kind of stay positive is really just, number one, we all love to help people. And I think that my joy comes from knowing that, we have a short period of time here and our mission is bigger than we are. And we have a great opportunity to touch other people's lives. So that actually brings me a lot of joy. And once again, I think that also, I think some of us who are centered here, who may be in relationships and things like that, it's amazing to hear how that other half kind of allows us to have a different purpose. So there's a few things that I'm looking at where I'm like, man, you know what? I'm happy today. But tomorrow is going to be even better,
Love it.
Beautiful, brother. Yeah, man. Definitely for me also. I got to roll with you there, brothers. And I did say that on a video 2 days ago about, man, the shortcut is gratitude. Gratitude is the shortcut. Definitely seeing gratitude in everything that we do each day, everything that we have. And also, funnily enough, what we don't have. You ever shown gratitude for something that you don't have in life? That stuff is different. When we start showing gratitude for those things, what we actually start to realize, particularly in times like this so-called chaotic world we're living in, that we're building strength, courage, and resilience for when these obstacles do come around in our life. You thank it. You start to see the lessons. You start to see the teachings. And the other big thing for me is self-care. Man, when I went from my last relationship meltdown, the first thing I did, I came back to here. I said, I'm going to start loving here again.
What do you mean, Evis, meltdown? What do you mean by meltdown?
So when I had a breakup in my last relationship, my brother, so many people you'd probably take to the state of melting down.
Yeah.
But I came back within here, whereas in the past, I may have, thought that was a very personal thing based on the external environment. But when I came back in here and I started thinking about things like self-care, as in rest, rejuvenation, recharge the batteries through things like going out and bush, man, getting a massage or two, and other self-cares, like basic things like a salt bath, whatever it may be, or whatever that may look like in your world, when we start actually applying a little self-care in our lives, because a lot of us have been twisted into thinking all of our self-care has got to be based on others.
Let me ask you this, Ev. Self-care for so many people feels like a job. It feels like work. And so what happens much of the time is that we put it off. We justify why today's not the day we're going to step in for ourselves, which we're tired, we didn't get enough sleep, we got a full schedule ahead of us. I come up with 5 more reasons that sound really familiar to most of us, including myself. I mean, I didn't give myself permission for 54 years of my life to take care of myself because I didn't think I had time. I thought I had responsibilities to my wife, to my 3 sons, to my customers, to my employees, my employer. Shall I go on? And so it wasn't until, for me, I was near death that I had to finally look at my choices and my behavior and realize that I needed to learn how to take care of myself through self-care. But people even talk about, exercise is the workout. People talk about they think they got to go to the gym, the exercise, that's a form of self-care, and it can be, and it is, but it doesn't have to be the only way. It doesn't have to feel like work.
Yeah.
100%, brother. And that's why a lot of the stuff that I do share and teach other people is inner size. So go within and do the internal exercise. A lot of the stuff, like we said at the start of this show, we've externalized to the world, and some of that self-care, because we think of this service to others, which is such a beautiful gift. And Donna actually mentioned this morning on a video that I did that, so many of us, we get caught up in being a service to others and we forget about ourselves. And again, this is deep old programming, but we need to cut these ribbons back. And we start to fulfill our own cups, like I said, then we start filling the cups of others. The most important relationship that you can have right now is the one with yourself, period.
Hey,
Quick question.
Go ahead, Charles.
Quick question, Evis. What did you, and it's kind of off the topic, but when you said meltdown, what did you learn from that because you carry yourself so well. You don't look like the type of guy who, I don't think any of us really look like that, but what did you learn from that you would do differently to maybe not have a meltdown? Just curious.
Yeah, look, like I said, brother, in previous relationships, I would have had the meltdown, and I have had the meltdown. But what I learned, number one, in key realization that I learned in this one, not knowing where to go. That was my first big one in self-realization. The next one was letting go of control. As many men, we think we've got control of the circumstances outside of ourselves, what people are going to do within their worlds, but being able to let go and surrender to this process, which is opened up, being able to broadcast with my brothers on the other side of the pond. I'm starting to do some painting over the back here. I'm involved in all different stuff now. So around the corner, when I was able to surrender to that meltdown and be able to let go and be able to come to the self-realization where I didn't know where I was going, I actually found my way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, it's interesting, Ev. You referenced Meltdown, and for a lot of people, we create a story around those two words. And for some people, there even may be some trauma around those words, meltdown. But meltdown doesn't have to be to that extreme either. It just could be perhaps a phrase in your language that just describes how you as a man was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been more of an inside meltdown than an external meltdown. It didn't mean that you were necessarily, punching holes in walls and screaming and yelling by any means. But it could mean that for many people, it does.
100%.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there because, again, I created my own story around those. Can be very powerful words.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it comes down to when you're talking about a meltdown. For me, and I'll really be honest, finding joy and moving into that place is a challenge for me. And I'm going to go back to what Jay said right at the top of the show. And we've worked on our fathers. I was never modeled joy, especially from my father. I never saw my father laugh or be in a joyous state. Everything was a chore. Everything was serious. Everything. And I really learned that. So I had to find my ways of breaking that programming and breaking that chain because he was such a huge model for me. And I still find myself going in those places. And what I talked about earlier is about having our feelings, because we can't sustain a feeling and sustain it and sustain it and sustain it. We have moments of joy. We have moments of happiness. We have moments of sadness. As Eva said, it's being in the moment. So in this moment, I'm feeling sad, angry, happy, joyous. The key to it all is to move into a place of neutrality within us, looking at what fulfills us. Joy, happiness, anger, sadness, they're all feelings, and they all come at the same time. But getting back to, so the real important part is if we find ourselves, something happens, like what happened with you, Jay, something hits us. I had something a couple of years ago that really floored me here. And the training for me was to learn to not indulge or sink into the feeling, indulging or sinking into sadness, indulging and sinking into anger, and sink into it and let it be there, and then the drama unfolds around it. So one of the tools is just to be aware if you're sinking into a feeling. You're sinking, you're indulging yourself in the sadness, and then it becomes your story, as opposed to moving out of that and allowing yourself to have your feelings, whatever tools to move the energy, because feelings, with every feeling we have, there's energy attached to it. So if we're having this feeling of joy, feel that energy. We're having this moment of happiness, feel that energy. We're having a moment of sadness, feel that energy. Allow the energy to move, but be careful that we don't sink and indulge into the drama of the story and the sadness and this. And that's what I was modeled. And it's just about being conscious of doing that, just to stay in this place of fulfillment. And Ev, I know I'm going on, but I loved, are you grateful for what you don't have in your life. Oh, dude, I love that. I love it. I never thought of that. I never, ever thought of being grateful for what I don't have in my life, as opposed to looking at what I don't have and wanting more of what I don't have, and then switching it back to saying, you know what? I'm glad that person's not in my life anymore. That makes me feel wonderful and joyous.
I was listening to Joel Osteen the other day, and he said, "Be thankful for God for not answering some prayers."
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Evis Love.
I would love to know in the audience, some of the people who are watching, are they happy? And if not, is there something, or are they missing out on some joy? What could bring them some joy? Any comments personally that they would love to share? I'd love to hear their thoughts. And thanks, Russ. I know Russ is in the woods camping and still listening to us. But anyone who is in a space where they could use this information, or what brings them happiness, or if they're not content or looking for that joy, maybe what could be different?
Yeah, to your point, Charles, one of the things that happens in relationships is how we connect with, let's say, like-minded people. And so, for example, if we're in a space where, let's say, we're feeling low, we have low thoughts, we're sad, we're upset about a circumstance in our life that's recently unfolded, how many times do we pick up the phone or call a friend or relative that we know is gonna almost affirm and endorse right where we're at, which we think is what we want to hear? Because we want to hear, it's almost like sometimes it can turn into a gossip session, it can turn into a dumping session. But where I'm going with this in this moment is the people we surround ourselves with are either going to keep us in that low space. Not that they have the power over us, but we become who we surround ourselves with. And so it's important to be aware of, if you're hanging with negative people that are always going to be complaining about their aches and their pains, emotionally, mentally, physically, their relationships. And if you think it's actually helping you, I don't believe it is. I believe it's actually hindering you from breaking free of your own cycle or pattern of thoughts that are keeping you in that low cycle of energy, as Jeff described. What do you guys make of that? How important is it, the circle of people that you surround yourself with, in raising yourself up and out?
So important.
Mm-hmm.
So important. It's one of the most important things that we could do, as Eva said, to look at the relationship we're having with ourselves, see where we are. But it is so important to, Charles said it. It's about looking at other friends that I had to let go of because they're not matching or where I am in my life right now. So we look at that because we're shifting the relationship we're having with ourselves to say, I want a more joyous, uplifting, fulfilling life. See those relationships that, you know what, that energy is not in sync with my energy now. And then surrounding ourselves with people who champion our highest good, people who see our greatness, people who rejoice in what we're doing, people who raise our resonance and vibration, and people who are open to listen. And then we, in turn, of course, it's reciprocal, like the five of us.
Yeah.
Victor just says, you become who you surround yourself with. It's so underrated.
Mm-hmm.
True.
100%. And that's what happens, if we start to think, that joy and happiness finds you, then we leave ourselves open, I feel, for that external environment to be influenced by others.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, if you open yourself to be influenced by others and surrounded yourself with that toxic environment, then of course your life is going to mirror that. Yep. It's going to be toxic. So the magic about what we're currently living in, ask yourself, what do I choose? Do I choose joy, or do I choose these toxic relationships that I'm in?
Yep.
A
good thing to do too in these times that we're all living in right now. Do you spend more time meditating, or do you spend more time watching the news and on social media? Do you spend more time on the inner work? Do you spend more time with the wonderful people who are in this place? I think what's important to do in this day and age right now, check in with what's going on in the world around us, be cognizant of it, but we got to detach from it because of the illusions that are being perpetrated, and then detach from that and spend more time with self-care, with the people who care about you, who you care about, and create that inner work, inner peace, as Charles said, that inner peace and fulfillment. Because when we do that, we can just create a whole new collective.
Mm-hmm. I was going to jump in real quick too, as well, to that point, Jeff. I've noticed even recently some of the changes that that I've made, and just give you two quick examples. Once again, coming from that place where I was kind of, raised in the neighborhood by friends, because my mom was at work and my dad was, living separately. But, I looked at, and even now, some people that I know that are in my life. And one may be a distant friend, but he was, this guy, he's in Colombia, and he went through all kind of craziness to get to Colombia during this COVID, to see a girl. But in Miami, this guy's got 2 or 3 women. And to see him go through all of this, literally probably an 8-hour drive from Bogota to Medellin, all to be with a woman. And I'm listening to this guy and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm a nice guy, but I've got to leave him alone, because these are the influences that I had back then. But to hear men still talking like this, because that influence will steal your joy, because you'll start thinking that it's okay to conduct yourself like that. Another guy who I'm really, really close with, and he's almost like a mentor in a sense to me, but married guy, doesn't have a problem cheating on his wife in a second, doesn't have a problem if you had a woman that he wouldn't encourage you to do the same. And I thought to myself, you know what, as somebody who is, hopefully looking to get married one day soon, I don't want that influence, because if I'm even slightly listening to that foolishness, it may lead me into thinking that it's okay to talk to his wife the way he does at times, or to, cheat at times if they're not around, and it's okay. So once again, I think just leaving those negative people alone for me in this second half is something that is bringing me great joy, to know that I'm restarting and refocusing on a new life.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Charles, because so often the people that we in the past may have looked up to and admired are no longer have to play that same role in our life, as you just described. Someone that you once emulated and thought was the all king. You looked at it now through a different set of lenses. Your vision changed, and your interpretation of what's important for you in your life has changed. And that's a great segue, because where I want to go with us right now, we're coming up on 15 minutes before the hour. This last section before we're going to go into dropping total bombs here. But how often do we allow what we perceive as other people's happiness and joy to steal it from us? Especially, for example, let's look at social media. A lot of people refer to Facebook as false book, a false face, because, there's a lot of people that put things in social media to create a smoke and mirrors of their life. And there are so many men and women that I've met that opt out of social media because they don't want to look at all these things that appear to be so great that they feel that they're living in lack. And so from that perspective, how do you guys think that we can do a better job of fishing out or keeping out those types of people or posts from those people that have stripped us of those moments of joy or happiness in our own life? And why do we allow that to happen? What is it that we're lacking within ourselves that we are so easily influenced by our perception of what someone else is posting as though they've made it and we haven't quite yet?
Comparing is so dangerous.
Oh yeah,
so dangerous, and it robs the number one, which is appreciation and gratitude. Comparing is the anti-gratitude. That is, looking at someone else's life and saying, I wish I had that, or I want that. And it's okay to go after goals or to try and achieve different milestones in business or in your life or whatever. But the second that we start comparing, compared to what? Compared to what, really? It's all in your mind. It's all just mental. Because the garbage truck guy can look at you and say, oh my God, he's got everything, even if you aren't where you are. So compared to what? Comparison isn't an appropriate scale because it is different to every single one. So you're completely making up that in your mind, and it's stripping you of your gratitude, your appreciation for what you do have. To have 10 fingers and 10 toes would be a dream for somebody out there. And so to just take in daily what we have and appreciate what we have is the anti-comparison. But for me, one of the tools that I did was I cleaned all my social media of, I only have positive people. And again, it's like we were talking about earlier, surrounding yourself with who you want to be like, with the energy that fuels you and the people that support you. And so, my social media is only people of the high caliber, high vibe that I want to surround myself with.
And what do you make of this, Ev? Like, how do we not allow our perception of what other people's life is impact our own happiness and joy? How do we block that from stripping it from us?
Simple, brother. Year of 2020. What have we said? Year of vision. Where are you focusing your goggles? I say it time and time again. Where are you putting your attention to? If you're going to put your attention to this false book, like you said, then you're going to pick up false people. So you've got to really come from a place of your heart and start using discernment, not judgment, because you do not know what's happening in other people's lives. They might paint a pretty picture for you and a beautiful trophy up on the shelf, but do you know what's really happening behind the scenes? Do you know their unique gifts? See, the problem is when we start comparing, we don't know our own unique gifts. We don't know our own purpose, what we're down here doing for the planet and other people around us or our lives. So once we start to bring these goggles and clean up the lenses and start paying attention on our own paper, so important right now. Keep your eyes on your own paper.
I like that.
Yeah.
And to jump to that point where we're talking about even social media, once again, I've done the same thing like Josh. Clean up my page from, I'm so tired of seeing this political stuff, man, because it's such a distraction.
Yeah, man.
It really is. Whether you're on the right or the left, the distraction that people are so addicted to their foolishness, whether they support this president or whether they don't. And it pulls us into this foolishness now where we're picking sides, we're consumed by all the attention that it brings and the new dramas that happen to emerge. And it really takes away from us living in this moment right now and really trying to live the best life we can in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I've done the same thing, cleaned up some of those social media things. I don't want to see anything negative. I don't want to see anything about I'm so tired of the politics. I'm so tired of the foolishness, man. I mean, I think we've gotten into a kind of dark place. I mean, everybody's, selling their behind in some form of fashion, man, whether it's, everybody's got some kind of a sex page up or half naked. Or, I mean, we've gotten into a place, man, where it really needs to change. And that positivity that we try to have and find amongst all this craziness is key, is very key, because a lot of people are going to find themselves very let down and very depressed once they don't have, these outlets to showcase themselves.
I mean, it all, as we all know, it all comes back to us. It all comes back to us to make new choices. Do we let ourselves get sucked into other people's dramas? It really all comes back to us and containing our own energy. But I want to get back to comparing, because it's something that I do at times, and what that does, and what Jay's pointing out, is that we look at other people's lives, and as Evis just said, we're looking at other people's lives out here, and we're looking at a mask that they may be portraying to the world. This is how I want to be perceived, and I'm all of this good stuff. And we start doing that, it will hit aspects of our wounding, our childhood wounding of, I'm not good enough yet, I'm not perfect enough yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not this, I'm not. Be careful when you see something and all of a sudden the knots come up in us. I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there. And then bring the focus back to ourselves. And then as an artist, an exercise that I would do, I would just go back and look at what I have accomplished in my life that brings me back into a place of not comparing. When we compare our lives to somebody else, like Eva said, you don't know what's really going on over there. The grass isn't always greener, folks.
Definitely.
The grass isn't always greener.
Definitely.
And so it's really important to stay contained within ourselves and be conscious when we're looking at somebody else's life, or somebody's got this or somebody's got that, or looking on social media. Like I said, are you spending more time on social media than meditating?
Yeah.
And be careful when you're triggered when all those knots come up.
Amen.
And just be with what you have, as Eva said earlier. Can you be joyful of what you don't have? Dude, if I've learned anything tonight, man, that is going to be my. Thank you, Evis. Love for that. But yeah, be conscious of and always create an accomplishment list in your life. Create, a gratitude list.
Well, that's what.
An accomplishment list.
That's what I was saying on my list, is I put an attaboy from the day before, because we hardly ever celebrate our wins.
Right, exactly.
We're always caught on the treadmill of wanting more and more and more and more. But look at what we've done. Like you said, go back and look at your body of work in your life. It's beautiful.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's that wound of I'm not good enough or I'm not perfect enough that pops up inside of us, and just be aware of that.
Do you guys think that nutrition plays any factor in our relationship with joy and happiness?
Yep.
And if so, how is that? F?
This is another show, Jay.
Yeah, really.
I think we know, food can either heal us or kill us.
Yep.
And I've always said it, there's a difference between junk and food. There's no such thing as junk food. There's just junk and there's food. So to keep it very basic, yeah, brother, of course, it's one of the number one things that you've got to start checking, whether it's affecting your mood in any way, particular feelings, emotions, or thoughts that you're having. You got to check what energy is coming within, and one of those is food.
Hey, doesn't that come back to self-care?
Well, it does. It was to be fair to you guys, it was really a setup question. The setup comes because, you see, food for me was once one of my addictions. Food for me was once where I reached for to feel better. So when I was feeling down, or I was feeling tired, or I was, whatever my low mood was, I would reach for comfort food to feel better, to raise me up.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, like a drug, eventually the good wore off and I was left with a 42-inch waist, disease riddled throughout my body, and I was miserable. It was no longer doing what I wanted it to do for me. And so I had to learn how to change my relationship with nutrition, with food, so that I didn't abuse it and actually embrace it as part of my healing journey. And Charles, that was some of a setup question for you too, because I know earlier in your career you were known as the celebrity chef.
Yeah.
And that was before you were personally diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
If I'm correct on the timing. Yeah. So from your perspective, I wonder, how much joy and happiness did you find came from food, and has your relationship with food changed since the diagnosis, one of which I believe you have, in fact, got under control and reversed to healed?
Definitely. I mean, I think that, somebody was texting me right now, and they've lost several pounds. And you could just see the joy in their face and how happy they are. They've changed their diet. Losing 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 pounds can change everything and start you on a new path of a course of living that brings a whole lot of joy. So, I think that definitely I've done the vegan thing, vegetarian thing, and things like that. And I just think that it allows you to have a new space to create and find some other activities as far as the way you cook and how healthy you try to be, and everything from, I just bought some sea moss and trying out new things. And so, yeah, definitely. I think that it goes hand in hand.
Beautiful. And where are you at today, Charles, in your relationship with type 2? Is it something that you've got reversed, healed?
Yeah.
What's your relationship today?
I don't take any medication, and I just checked my blood sugar. It was like the day before yesterday, and 80 to 120 is normal, and it was 112. So I mean, I'm good.
Beautiful.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah.
Welcome back, man.
Yeah.
So that brings me joy. It truly does. I too was once type 2, and it's gone, it's dissolved, it's resolved and dissolved. But it doesn't mean that, I get to take a week or a month off and go back to my old habits, because it will come back. So it's just me having to change my relationship with food and nutrition. With what time we do have left, gentlemen, it is that time. I'm going to invite each one of you. You're going to have 2 minutes to go solo. When I bring you back in, it's time to wrap it up. I'd like to invite you to drop your own Liquid Gold Pure bomb of ecstasy, meaning one way that we can create or find happiness and joy within ourselves. And Jeff Asano, I'm going to invite you to open us up. You got 2 minutes, my friend.
Be grateful of what you don't have. I'm telling you, it's really wonderful. I've learned something so amazing, as opposed to look at what is in your life. Look at what is in the moment. Look at what abundance is in your life. I'm going to bring it back to what's going on in the world right now. That I really think is so important. You guys brought up social media, so we're all going through this global pause. It's very unknown. It's very different. There's a lot going on outside of us in the world right now that it's triggering so much inside of us, and we have to find a place of equilibrium between that and then what's going in our lives. And I really think the focus at this time is if we could take the focus off of what's going on outside of us 90% of the time, be aware of what's going on. Look at social media. Where are you spending your time? Where are you spending your time in self-care? Where are you spending your time in nurturing yourself at this time? Where are you spending the time on the relationships that you can nurture, that nurture you? That is what's going to move us through what's going on in the world right now. So it's once again about letting go of the outside, being aware, see how it makes you feel, but move inside and begin to really nurture the self. Nurture yourself. Look at your diet. Look at all of these things that are going on in your life right now that can uplift you and nurture you, and then get in the company of people who are in that place of nurturing themselves, and then you could start to move into this place of fulfillment and joy as we move to the other side of this shadow or this darkness that's going on in our life right now.
Beautiful. Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee tonight. Josh Richer coming in from a bubble somewhere on the West Coast. We'll at least put it there. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about it a little earlier in the show, Josh, and we keep mentioning that you're in a bubble somewhere. But it's the same kind of bubble that we could learn how to wrap ourselves with, so that no matter what's going on outside of ourselves, we can be protected. And we could still experience inner joy, happiness, serenity, peace, inner peace and freedom. So I invite you, while you're on set for the next 3 weeks or so, to really embrace this whole bubble thing, and not just look at it from the business requirement that you're in now, but also how it can influence and impact your own happiness. And let us know if it changes anything for you. I'm curious to know. But you've got 2 minutes now to drop your own liquid bombs on us. You mentioned gratitude early on in the show.
And you know, I forgot a big one, and it's my number one. Actually, is sleep. Sleep. The prefrontal cortex, the rationing part of your brain, the part of you that when you're feeling emotional and you want to scream out, yell at somebody and you don't, that's the prefrontal cortex. That part of your brain takes up a lot of energy. So when you're tired, your body shuts that down to keep the survival parts of you going. Because it's an energy hog, the body, that's the first thing to go when you're tired, because the body's like, that's, you know, we don't need that. We need to live and breathe. So sleep, and I battled with it for many, many, many years. And what it left me was emotional, out of control. It left me not in a place of power, not in that place where Jeff was talking about that we can observe our emotions and observe those thoughts that come through and then choose. And that's the other thing I wanted to and this is a whole nother show in itself, is we have choice. And if we can give ourselves good rest, that keeps us in a place of control where we can choose happiness and choose gratitude and choose all this stuff. So actually my number one is sleep, and gratitude is number two.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Josh, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to turn it over to someone we know as loving tonight. You got 2 minutes to drop your own bombs of liquid gold here.
I would just say, really keep it simple. And it's not all about the hustle. It's not always about. It's not about always winning and doing all of these big moves and sometimes, man, it's just keeping it simple. Looking toward the most simplest things of life, man. Finding good people in your life. I think especially in America, we look at things very different. And third world countries, man, they're happy just sitting around on a Friday night like this, man, drinking some cervezas and some good food and family and friends and having conversation. I think we've complicated things a whole lot, and it really doesn't make any sense. So, and once again, this life is short. I don't think people realize, man. Folks is falling out, man, at ungodly ages. And I think too, as well, what Josh said, sleep is definitely is key, because once again, we've become so convoluted in our daily life that we forget to rest, and we don't even want to rest. I've had times where I wake up, man, I'm going to bed at 11 so I can wake up at 2 and work till 5, and barely getting any sleep until in between all of that. So just keep it simple, man, and just focus on these moments and creating joy in moments with the ones we love.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charles, for sharing that out tonight. Evis, Love, Heath, the man of the land from down under, across the pond, coming out of the bush to do the show live tonight. Ev, you're up.
Man, as always, brothers and sisters, thanks for joining in again on Real Men Real Talk Live. And look, last night I mentioned on a video this morning, I was watching a beautiful movie called The Peaceful Warrior. I'll chuck that in the comments, and I really give you guys, I recommend anyone that hasn't seen that beautiful movie or read the book by Dan Millman to read The Peaceful Warrior and have a really good look at the symbols behind some of the characters within that. One of the characters he's talking to is actually played by Nick Nolte in that movie, and that represents his higher self, even his intuition during the movie. But you always see the love of his life, the female interest in his life, running in and out of his world. Her name just happens to be Joy. Joy. This beautiful emotion, it can be a fleeting emotion if it is external to our world. What I want to ask you, brothers and sisters, really start identifying and start understanding some of these emotions, whether they're good, whether they're bad. Ask yourself, where is it that joy or happiness lives within my life? And if it is joy to me, is this joy that I'm experiencing authentic? Ask yourself, am I open to joy? Because so many people we're closed off right now. Do you even know what joy is? Ask yourself, am I experiencing joy at different times of the year? Is it externally internal for me? And how can I find it consistently in my life? Because when we start to embody joy in all areas of our life, we start to really live. We don't have to worry about anything that's going on in this crazy outside world. Don't wait for happiness to come to you. Start embodying your joy and happiness.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Beautiful. Evis, I love that. Here's my closing thoughts. Before we go there, I want to thank the viewers and listeners that joined us live or catch us on replay. Your comments and your questions all matter to us. We appreciate you so much for supporting us, Real Men, Real Talk. And we get excited every week because we come in knowing that you're going to be here with us. And, for some of us, maybe it's the first time in our life where we are connecting with other men and women. And, for me, it feels pretty damn good. Happiness for me personally was, in Facebook, when you post your profile and I ask you about your relationships, and some people select it's complicated. That was me. My relationship with happiness was complicated because, by golly, I wanted it. I was told at a young age, that's what I needed to have in life. But I was chasing it always outside of myself. It didn't matter how much I had accomplished in my career. It didn't matter how much I made. It didn't matter how much I had made in the market. It didn't matter how many children I had. It didn't matter that I had a beautiful wife for many years. It didn't matter that I had the houses, the cars, the 9 states I lived in. None of that mattered because I wasn't able to truly experience what happiness can feel like as a sustained emotion, because I don't believe happiness can be sustained. As we've chatted tonight, truly what can be sustained is our inner freedom, our inner calm, our inner serenity, our inner joy. And when I stop seeking it and chasing it outside of myself, everything changed. And it didn't change like a light switch where you can just change the bulb and the light's going to come on brighter. I have to show up every single day for myself and practice, because it's kind of like the drug. Once you've had a good taste of it, once it feels good, you want to repeat it. So I just keep showing up every day, practicing change behavior, the self-care, sleeping more than I slept when I was working in corporate America, writing, blogging, connecting with people, nutrition, music, all of these different tools to help bring me to the center, to that place I call balance. Balance isn't far left. Balance doesn't have to be far right. It's right in the middle, where I could join my hands together as I am in this moment. And with that, thank you for joining us tonight on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Love, I know you always want to say one more thing.
Yeah. I'm glad to say. Man, we got some great people in there. I just wanted to just acknowledge Dr. Denise is in there on one of our, Walter Scott King, Robert Brooker, Sherry, of course, always showing up for us, Stephanie Parrish, Donna, of course, we love you guys, Mary Kelly, of course, who else? Khadijah, just yeah, whoever's in here, man. And please, we would love if you started a watch party. It only takes a second. Definitely share out to some of your friends. You can share it in Messenger. We're working on some things. We got some merchandise coming out. I'm sure that Jay will put that up there. We've sent this to some good outlets that are showing some exciting promise. So we've got some big things coming up in the works for this show. So keep tuning in. And we love you guys. Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week. Real Men, Real Talk Live.